before we start this event, I would like to request you to stand and observe a minute's silence in memory of a Doordarshan television cameraman, Achyutananda Sahu, who was killed along with two policemen in Dantewada district of Chhattisgarh. A warm welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have you with us, Madam High Commissioner of Uganda, Ms. Grace Akello. We warmly welcome the High Commissioner of Gambia, Madam Jainaba Jatne. Welcome to you. I also warmly welcome all the diplomats from other African nations. We are delighted to have you with us. Madam, thank you very much for readily accepting my invitation nearly a week ago and coming forward gallantly to speak and meet our people. Let me introduce her first. We normally think that Indians are the only people who were harassed by Idi Amin in 1972, and 50,000 Indians were forced to flee that country. Their properties were seized. But Grace Akello was also one of the people, along with several other Ugandans, who fled Uganda and lived in Kenya and Tanzania. Grace Akello is an artist sort and was born near Soroti in the eastern region of Uganda. She studied social work and social administration at Makerere University in Kampala, graduating in 1974. In 2015, she graduated with a master's degree in food security and human development from the Faculty of Economics of Roma Tre University in Rome. After her undergraduate studies in Kampala, Akello fled Idi Amin's government and lived as a refugee in Tanzania. She worked as a magazine editor in Kenya and Tanzania before going to Britain to become assistant publications editor for the Commonwealth Secretariat from 1981 to 1990. In 1990, she went back to Uganda to lead a presidential commission on conflict resolution between the people of Teso and National Resistance Government of President Yoweri Museveni. After resolution of this conflict in 1994, she joined the Constituent Assembly, which made a new constitution for Uganda that was promulgated in 1995. In 1996, she became a member of Parliament of Uganda and was appointed Minister of State for Microfinance under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development in 1998. In 2003, she was assigned to serve as Minister for Northern Uganda, where she worked to end the Kony-led rebellion against the government. Despite losing her parliamentary seat in 2006, she continued promoting development in the northern and eastern part of Uganda by setting up a small FM radio station to build, secure and maintain peace. In 2009, she served briefly as a commissioner in the Uganda Human Rights Commission before being appointed Principal Private Secretary to President Museveni in 2010. Prior to her posting in India as High Commissioner last year, she was Uganda's ambassador in Rome from 2013 to 2017. In 1992, her poem, Encounter, from her collection, My Barren Song, was included in Margaret Busby's Daughters of Africa, a selection of works from women authors in Africa. So we have with us a very distinguished journalist, author, poet, minister, now a diplomat with us. Madam, the stage is yours. Please tell us about relations between Uganda and India. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that warm reception. I prepared this paper because I prefer to read than talk off the cuff. And as I prepared, I realized that there was quite a lot of work involved, and I said, I'm going to bore all these journalists. So you'll have to bear with me if I go on a bit. I try to keep it short, but I think this relationship between Uganda and India is very, very important. And you may wish to know that India, New Delhi, is the largest mission for Uganda. It's larger than New York. It's larger than any other Ugandan mission anywhere else in the world. I think that tells you how important this relationship is. So let's hear what I have said, and bear with my pronunciation and all that. Uganda-India relations at the dawn of the new millennium are imbued with a new warmth, strength, and depth which the challenges ahead demand. Recent high-level visits to Kampala and New Delhi are a display of this warmth, with Prime Minister Modi's July visit to Uganda being one of the highest peaks of Uganda-India relations. In Uganda, Prime Minister Modi was given roles which depicted the closeness and depth of these relations. He met Ugandan Indians, it shared human resource between Uganda and India. He addressed the Ugandan Parliament, recalling India's role in advancing the independence struggle for African countries, including Uganda, a struggle for freedom and equality. He emphasized the need for joint efforts to bring up the future generation represented in Parliament. He talked to Uganda's democratically elected legislators as if we were speaking to the Lok Sabha. India, the humane giant of Asia, and Uganda, the pearl in the heart of Africa, have been friends for the last 100 years. India is a subcontinent of a country covering 1,269,219 square miles of planet Earth, with a population of 1.3 billion people. Its gross domestic product is nearly $3 trillion. Uganda, on the other hand, is slightly bigger in size than the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh and has a population of about 40 million people, which is about the same size of population as the state of Odisha. While India is one of the top global economies, Uganda accounts for 0.04% of the world economy. The differences between the two friends could not be any more evident. The question could thus be asked, where is the common ground and on what basis is this friendship? The basis of the friendship is to be found in the similarities which are hidden by mere figures. Is to be found in the human dimension of these figures. India, the gentle giant of Asia, has always espoused the values of friendship and common understanding with the people of Africa, based on her total belief in equality and dignity of all peoples. Beyond this, in the case of Uganda, India bequeathed to us its brains and labor in opening up the country through the construction of the Uganda Railway nearly 130 years ago. One of the positive aspects of Idi Amin's harsh expulsion of Asians, jumping, but when I give the paper, you find that there is more to that. One of the positive aspects of Amin's harsh expulsion of Ugandan Indians was the realization by both Ugandans and the expelled Indians that Uganda was their home. The economy which the Indians had nurtured for over 50 years collapsed, and despite the short-lived euphoria over ownership of the departed Asian properties, Ugandans soon realized that they needed their Indian compatriots to bolster the economy. And so, one of the very first things which President Obote did upon resuming power in the 80s was to call on all expelled Indians to return home. This policy was made law in 1983. Likewise, our current President Yoweri Museveni has consistently pursued the return of all Ugandans expelled by Idi Amin. These calls have met with varied responses, as some of those expelled from Uganda have found greener pastures in their countries of refuge and decided to stay there for good. But some returned, and today Uganda is building an economy once again with inputs from her Indian sons and daughters. But that is the story of Uganda and her Indian citizens. Here, let us go back to the humane giant of Asia and his relations with Uganda today. The two friendly countries share the dictate of balanced development and are searching ways and means of attaining it. In order to reduce poverty and socio-economic disparity, India plans to triple its giant 3 trillion billions economy by 2031. India's economy is growing at 8% per annum, while Uganda's 27 billion economy has also got a handsome growth rate of about 6% per annum. In both countries, the poverty levels and socio-economic disparities are manifested and accentuated by high unemployment rates. In the case of Uganda, out of 16.3 million labor force, 81.5% are unemployed. 7 of these being youth. In the case of India, though unemployment stands between 5 to 8% of the country's labor force, most of those in employment are underemployed. This appears to be a similar situation in Uganda, where many of the so-called self-employed workers are engaged in activities which have an incremental rather than exponential effect on the growth of the economy. Economic activities such as these will never transform the economy. Typical examples include hair braiding salons, nail manicures and pedicures, flour milling, bicycle motorcycle repairs, shoe polishing, hawking of trinkets and curios. The Indian underemployment variation of this pattern seems to consist of 2 or more people doing the same job, which could easily be carried out by one person. So the humane giant of Asia, being the second most populous country on planet Earth, also has its youngest population. It is this young population which powers India's economy, but it is also the same population which has the greatest potential to pull down the economy. India's young people, totaling over 600 million, need only education, skilling and tooling. They also need, in the words of Niti Ayo, the creation of high productivity, high wage jobs, instead of the current low productivity and low wage jobs. Uganda has similar concerns with her youth dividend. That's our dean and the ambassador of Tanzania coming in.
A warm welcome to the Dean of African States and Ambassador of Tanzania. Please come. We are honored with your presence. Thank you.
So, Excellencies, I was talking about giving this talk, and I was at the point where we were comparing the Ugandan youth and the Indian youth. So I shall just continue. Uganda has concerns over our youth dividend, which accounts for more than 60% of the country's total population. The creation of jobs for the youth is thus a key concern for both Uganda and India. Agriculture remains a vital part of the economy, and because it makes up sizable portions of the gross domestic product of the two countries. India's agriculture accounts for nearly 18% of the total GDP, and Uganda's for nearly 25% of the GDP. The two countries share the common resource to increase production and productivity in this important sector of their economies. India specifically aims to double the incomes of farmers by 2022. India, now able to realize domestic revenue generated by its huge middle class, can say that will fulfill this pledge. Uganda, however, is thwarted by a highly limited capacity to generate local revenues, to do what India wants to do, which is to raise productivity through enhanced irrigation, to provide good quality seed in time, to roll out precision farming, popularize horticultural farming, including rearing animals, birds, etc. Furthermore, Uganda is keen to gain more markets for her agricultural products by adding value to them through manufacturing and industrial processing. Her greatest limitation in pursuing this objective is lack of capital and technology. This bottleneck continues to render Uganda's export basket narrow and therefore dominated by agricultural products such as coffee, tea, maize, beans, etc. Moreover, because Uganda's economy has a low industrial base and is not diversified, it's very difficult to broaden the export basket. Thus, it becomes very difficult for her to secure a niche in international markets. This leads to the low-value export trap that Uganda is caught in. Uganda's good friend India has, as her economy has grown, over many of these deficits. If we go back to our giant and pearl, Mr. Chairman, we can see that India is a giant economy with an 8% annual growth rate, having a reliable base for capital formation and deeply entrenched entrepreneurial culture and some highly developed technologies. Uganda, the pearl, is an equally growing economy at 6% per annum, but from a very low base of GDP US dollars 27 billion. Capital formation in Uganda is very low, and equally low is Uganda's technological base. But Uganda is aspiring to catch up with India in many of these areas, seeing India very much as a role model. There is an apparent confluence of thinking between India and Uganda, exhibited by both countries having socio-economic transformation visions. The overriding similarity in both visions is the drive to socio-economic transformation such as has been achieved in South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and other Asian countries. Such transformation is not just reflected in figures, but in the actual assault and defeat of poverty and its associated patterns of poor health, poor education, poor housing, etc. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are two basic differences between the two in their drive to achieve this transformation, however. The first is the starting point. Uganda starting from a peasant base and India from a more advanced base. India's vision 2031-32 is based on a country with $3 trillion GDP, distributed to its 1.3 billion people, such that each person has $2,134 nominal dollars, or can purchase $7,783 worth of goods. Uganda's vision 2040 starts from a base of 27 billion, as I've said, with each person getting about $650. So Uganda has a long way to go. Uganda's vision is based on the reality of the economy, which is still predominantly peasant, but it is tied to the global economy. So I want to jump some. So now we have Vision 2040, which has 5-year plans. And the current 5-year plan we are working on is 2015-2020. This plan aims at strengthening Uganda's competitiveness for sustainable wealth creation, employment, and inclusive growth. The key 5 areas, which are simply called the country's investment in order to realize this, are agriculture, tourism, minerals and oil and gas, infrastructure, and human capital development. The challenge is to be confronted by government, but by other key players, especially the private sector. Now, India's private sector has much more experience of doing business than Uganda's private sector players. In comparison to Uganda, India's private sector has large sums of investable capital, which can be put to the areas identified by Uganda to generate wealth, both for Ugandans and Indians. This discussion so far has led us to see that some similarities between Uganda and India exist at first glance, since both countries have overwhelming compulsion to liberate their people from poverty and want. But this compulsion is not just from within the countries. It is also the call to arms by key organizations to which both India and Uganda belong. At the highest international level, the United Nations has come up with sustainable development goals, which among other things call for the elimination of poverty, zero hunger and food and nutrition security, healthy people enjoying well-being, education and the development of human capital, peace and justice, and the sustainable management of our planet. On the African continent, where the Pearl finds sustenance, Agenda 2063 calls for a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Agenda 2063 further dictates that Africa is determined to eradicate poverty in one generation and to build shared prosperity through social and economic transformation of the continent. Uganda is furthermore bound by the aspirations of one of the continent's regional economic communities, the East African Community. Here too, there is a confluence between the aspirations and plans of India to lift all our people out of poverty and those of the countries of East Africa. Given this long spectrum of visions and aspirations, it is fair to surmise that Uganda-India relations are aimed at serving humanity on the Indian subcontinent and on the African continent. These relations can be looked at from the perspective of a pyramid. At the bottom of this pyramid, today sits the overarching imperative object of generating wealth for the mutual benefit of the people of Uganda and those of India. The next space occupied in the pyramid is occupied by Uganda and India's collaboration in nurturing human capital. Next is cooperation about promoting and sharing technology. This is followed towards the end of the pyramid by the common resolve of the two countries to promote global peace and security. At the apex of the pyramid sits the most fundamental of all collaborations in this relationship, saving Mother Earth. In the drive for mutual generation of wealth, Uganda-India economic diplomacy relations are dominated by the call for Indian investors to take up the lucrative investment opportunity which Uganda has to offer. They are also dominated by calls for increased imports of Ugandan goods to India. There are a number of support agencies set up to support all these investment regimes in Uganda. More investments in the priority areas of agriculture, minerals, oil and gas, as well as tourism, will increase both volumes and quality of products. This will enable Uganda to maintain a foothold on global markets at its disposal. Apart from her own markets, Mr. Chairman, goods produced in Uganda have a 145 million market within the East African community in the first instance. Then a 300 million market in the Great Lakes region of Africa. Then a $500 million market in the COMESA free trade area of 29 African countries. Overseas markets which Uganda products can access include the US market via the African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, and the European market lines given through the Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA. In Asia, Ugandan-made goods have ready access to Chinese market through the preferential treatment of exports which China has extended to Uganda. Therefore, the call for investment from India to Uganda is a call to India to extend its wealth-creating frontiers to the most lucrative production location in Africa, which is Uganda. And I know when the High Commissioner for Tanzania will be talking to you next time, he will say the most lucrative investment center in Africa is Tanzania. And one of Somalia, of Eritrea will say the same, and my sister of Gambia will say the same. But that is because we, all of us, Agenda 2063 is driving us and says you must get rid of poverty. So all of us are pushing this. Uganda is doing its bit. Uganda's investment climate is very friendly and encourages investment which can be sold proprietorship, private-public partnership, private partnerships, etc. It offers generous tax holidays and profit repatriation among other incentives for the serious investor. For those investors wishing to produce exclusively for export, opportunities abound. To facilitate such investment, government has set up a Uganda export free zone area, charged with helping to establish and support them. The authority here has identified 4 areas of resource-based products such as commercial agriculture and agro-processing, livestock and egg products, market-driven products such as pharmaceuticals, textiles and apparel, electronic and electric goods, building materials, export services which include business process outsourcing, transport services, export marketing support services, etc., and commercial trading, which includes regional distribution centers, order taking and reparting, etc. These all fall within the highest priority needs of Plan 2015-2020, but an investor wishing to set up in a free zone area can set up business in any other area that's legitimate. In the area of trade, none speaks more eloquently on Uganda-India relations than our president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Uganda's topmost executive. During the third India-Africa Forum Summit held on 29 October 2015, Mr. Chairman, almost 3 years to our talk today, he decried the great gap in trading figures between India and Uganda. He said, quote, "The current figures show that Uganda supports India's prosperity by buying US dollars 1.6 billion worth of goods. India, still in his quote, on the other hand, only buys goods worth $16 million from Uganda." At this highest forum of diplomats, President Museveni urged India and Uganda to work systematically so as to expand and balance this trade. Going beyond Uganda's trade task, President Museveni called for the subcontinent of India, with its 1.3 billion people, and the continent of Africa, with about the same number of people, to, quote, "deliberately use the huge population groups in the two areas to support through trade the prosperity of Indians and Africans." Let's talk about human development. Ugandans in need of specialist medical attention know no better country to go to than India. Each year, the Indian High Commission in Kampala gives a minimum of 500 visas for people coming to India's world specialist medical facilities. Increasingly also, Indian medical specialists have found healthy investments in Uganda's health sector. So there is an exchange. While some supply badly needed pharmaceuticals and others offer diagnostic services, some have to set up specialist units in Uganda. Health is one aspect of nurturing Uganda's human capital, a role which India has performed for a long time. The other is education. India has provided a conducive learning environment for hundreds of Ugandans over the years. Today, our second Deputy Prime Minister is a graduate of Delhi University, while the Deputy Speaker of Parliament has benefited from high-tech scholarships, thanks to India's open door policy on education. As Uganda seeks to build her capacity in technology and related areas, its universities set up along this line look to India to support in training of trainers and in equipping and tooling such universities. The fact, Mr. Chairman, that India can launch 100 satellites in one day has not escaped the attention of Ugandans. A country which uses or hopes to use its own space for development purposes. Apart from space science, however, there are many other engineering and technical feats which single out India as an appropriate training center for Ugandans. Fulfilling President Museveni's plea in the area of technological training at least, India has certainly helped to support mutual prosperity in human resources. Uganda-India relations encompass the vital area of peace and security. India's army, being one of the largest in the world, not only benefits Uganda, but the whole of the Indian Ocean ring littoral states. Indian Navy patrols along the Indian and Arabian seas protect global shipping lanes and check high seas piracy along the Horn of Africa. This, Mr. Chairman, is a great relief to Uganda, which has committed herself heavily to securing peace for the Horn of Africa nation of Somalia. In Somalia, Uganda's Pan-African commitment coheres with India's dedication to keeping shipping lanes in the high seas safe for global commerce and interaction. Apart from this convergence at the Horn of Africa, Uganda and India have a long-standing bilateral defense and security relationship. Uganda's army has benefited from the facilities, faculties, and technologies of the Indian Army, including tutoring and mentoring. Collaboration takes place either at the Indian Army facilities or in the Ugandan Army institutions. Support in logistics as well as equipping and schooling by the Indian Army is very much appreciated by Uganda. At the global level, both India and Uganda are seeking reform of the United Nations Security Council in order to make it more representative of today's states and their interests. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Uganda and Indian relations flourish in a world which faces an existential threat of planetary proportions in the face of climate change and global warming. It was during the tenure of Uganda's Minister of Foreign Affairs as chairperson of the United Nations General Assembly that Sustainable Development Goals, which are framed against the backdrop of climate change, were adopted by the World Bank. One of the clarion calls to action embedded in these goals led to the signing of the Paris Agreement of Climate Change, to which Uganda is a party. India was able to push the climate change agenda to a higher level, and thus carried and gave birth to the baby called International Solar Alliance. At the first General Assembly of ISA held in Noida at the beginning of this month, Mr. Chairman, Uganda was represented by a delegation led by Minister of State for Minerals and Energy Development. In conclusion, there is no conclusion to the Uganda-India relations today. At the highest levels, President Museveni and Prime Minister Modi at the end of July agreed to reinforce and build upon the successes and achievements of existing bilateral relations. They underscored the importance of trade and economic relations and were of one mind on fighting terrorism and on the need to reform the UN Security Council. So that nothing is left to chance, Mr. Chairman, the two leaders called for regular convening of bilateral mechanisms, including at foreign and external affairs level, to review the overall state of bilateral relations and for the expeditious implementation of economic and development cooperation. Mr. Chairman, distinguished audience, colleagues, ambassadors, thank you very much for your attention.
That was a very comprehensive speech on Uganda-India relations, Excellency. Thank you very much. I now open the Q&A session. Those of you who have any questions to ask, kindly raise your hand. A microphone will come to you. Then you can identify yourself and ask the question.
Her Excellency, which are the items during the last 4 or 5 years that you import more from India or India import more from Uganda? Items means a business dealings.
Okay, maybe we should take the question. I don't know. Will we take and then answer them? Or we answer the comment? You know, Uganda, India usually, the most important things which come from India usually, I would have to look exactly and check properly. But I will answer, I'll give you a general answer. Most industrial produced goods come from India, Uganda. And one of the most important of these are pharmaceuticals. I think the biggest import from India to Uganda is pharmaceuticals. And I don't have our technical person here who could help me to answer that question. But what I can tell you is that what is worrying Uganda and what is also worrying us, I know it's worrying India also because the Prime Minister Modi noted it, is that the tendency which was there during the days of colonialism and the relationship between African countries or even Indian, Asian countries and Western countries was that all our goods were going to markets in the West were primary products, beans, teas, coffee, tea, no value addition, nothing. Then they take them, we send them to the West. The coffee beans which we sent to them come back now as processed coffee in the form of instant coffee, granulated coffee, and the price is 10 times more than, 100 times more than what we got for them when we sold them in the form of our exports. That is the tendency which still exists, unfortunately. Because when I look at the figures coming from Uganda, the items which are coming for, which are being imported in India, beans, peas, choroko, what we call choroko, green grams, leather maybe, leather but no value addition to leather, really raw materials which are coming. And that's the tendency which we are saying to you, don't let us perpetuate this. You come to Uganda, let Indian capital go to Uganda, let Indian capital invest in Uganda. Uganda has got a friendly regime whereby if you are going in, and I've given some papers there on incentives given by Uganda Revenue Authority, for example. If you are going in and you are taking your mineral plant, some of it will go completely free of charge. Some of it you pay a minimal tax on. And when you make your profit, you will repatriate all your profit. Nobody follows you up. And then you are given 10 years tax holiday. And many other small benefits in between, which make you to invest in the country. Now, when you invest in Uganda, okay, let's just take the example of, say, maize, or even better, cassava. Usually cassava is a very low value crop. Cassava is manual. And I have found that you have cassava here. I go to inner market and I buy cassava. And I cooked it for some of you people. You ate it the way I cooked it and said, it's not cassava. I said, that is cassava. But if you go, if we are to export this to you, it will have no value at all. However, if you come in there and you take it, like somebody from Mumbai has gone to Uganda, he plans to make the cassava flour, but he plans to make this for medicinal purposes, he plans to make it for plaster of Paris, he plans to make other uses within Uganda for it, mixing, for people who have allergies to certain other starches, he plans to make this. So you open up a completely different market altogether. So I cannot answer your question more directly, but that would be what I would say in relation to this particular trading relationship. It's not a healthy relationship whereby we are trading with similar commodities and it's a question of quality of value or buyer preference now. It's really very basic. We give you the raw materials which you add value to and we get hardly anything at all. So
Thank you.
Madam High Commissioner, in 1972, Idi Amin was responsible for 50,000 people of Indian origin being thrown out, even though they were born in Uganda, but they were holding British passports and so on. Now, Mr. Mussolini has been trying to encourage to get them back. Now you have 30,000 people of Indian origin living in your country. How many of them are actually the people who were thrown out by Idi Amin and have come back? Because of course, most of the people of Gujarati origin, if you remember, they went to England and America. Most of the hotels in California area are owned by Indians of Ugandan origin, and the richest hundreds list in England consists a large number of Indians who were forced to leave Uganda. Now tell us something about the contribution of the Indian diaspora to your economy. Have people who left the country, have they thought of coming back? What exactly are you doing to encourage them to come back?
Ask me about it, okay, for all you correspondents and also some kind of journalists. If you ask me how many people did visa, I'll tell you 5,000. If you ask me to name them, I may not be able to. So let's avoid that. Now, your question as to how many have come back, I can't tell you exactly, but some have come back. Not very many, not all the 30,000, certainly have come back. But we launched in 1983 when Obote was in power. He actually came to India and appointed as his High Commission to India, an Indian person. Yes, India. And one of his first visits was, one of his key areas in India was to say, tell our sons to go back. So some of them went back from the time of Obote. But, Obote, remember, had a very short time in which to have any impact on the policy of running the Indians or anything else, because then there was this insurrection launched against him, which was by our current president. So he had a very uncomfortable sitting period there. And also, when the Indians wanted to come back, and believe you me, I visited some of them when I was in London, and they were crying to go back. You see them, they say, my daughter, some of them were from Uganda, some were from Teso, some spoke my language as if it was, which they were now Teso. This, I want to go home, I want to go home. England is not a place for me. And they were staying in some of the poshest places in Britain. But nobody didn't have the time to escape to have, because when to have them come back. Because even as was telling them to come back, there was a war against him. So people said, well, they want to go home. But given really the fact that there is a guerrilla war against the government and people are being killed and so on, what's the point of going home only to be killed? It's better we stay. So many of them, in fact, the ones who lived in Britain, many of them stayed in Britain. But some came back, and when they came back, some of them got back their properties. Others said, forget about the property, we will start over again. We have very, very rich Ugandan Indians now who came back. Or like, well, but the younger generation did not ran away, and the old man stayed back. Let us stay back in Uganda. But his daughter and others went away. We have the Barelias of this world. Wow, Barelia was a chain of businesses in Kampala. The richest people in Uganda are some of our Indians who took advantage of that opportunity to come back and start a new economic life in Uganda. And because they had, I have to give it to you people, you Indians, you have a way of keeping money and knowing how to use it to make more money. Some of us, when we get money, I think we get excited by it, and I don't quite know how to use it. But because some of those who had been picked up by had British money, for example, Canadian money, these were great investable capital if they put back to Uganda. And they are there. I won't tell you the numbers, but next time I'm going to have to look, and as we have this relationship more and more, I'll give you the actual numbers. But other people, other Indians who had not been expelled by Idi Amin, just decided to come to Uganda. And they have come, and they are making nice profits for themselves.
And also enriching your economy. I think 65% of the revenue comes from the Indian community, which accounts for less than 1% of the population, which is a remarkable thing, I think.
Yes, 80% of our URA tax collections come from the Ugandan, from our Ugandan Indians, yes, the Ugandan business Indians. Yeah. And we have people, moguls like Meta. Meta owns the second largest sugar industry in Uganda, in East Africa. Meta's companies are listed in New York, in London, in where. So, we have Madvani. I mean, Madvani, his sister was my predecessor here about two times back. The initial Madvani. Madvani is a well-known business name in the conglomerate, in fact. And it's not about leaving Uganda. Why should he? This is his country. So we have another one, Karamali, who decided to go into the tea industry. Now for Uganda, the tea industry is not so lucrative because our tea, unfortunately, I was talking to some of the people who deal with tea in Kolkata and in Kiboga, in Assam. I said, why don't you get our tea? They said, we don't know your tea. I said, why don't you know our tea? Uganda tea is the best tea in the world. It's a Highland tea. And it's picked by hand and so on. They said, no, Ugandan tea is not the best in the world. Actually, Ugandan tea is auctioned off at Mombasa, TXT. However, this man, Karamali, managed to go and set himself up, and his tea is actually making, even the tea that was making a millionaire. So, there are so many opportunities, but it needs the mixture of capital, entrepreneurship, and that love of business management, which the Indians have just like that. It's a special gift, I think.
Excellency, one question, Indian invest in Uganda in telecom, and IT sector, healthcare, and medicine, and third is others, hotel, tourism.
Yes.
What benefit of tax holiday?
Usually 10-year tax holiday is guaranteed, a minimum 10-year tax holiday is guaranteed. But you can get more benefits if you negotiate. For example, if you enter under the export processing zone, the new body which has come up now to promote more specifically industry to produce for export, you get more benefits from that than if you just went and invested in Uganda. But on other Indian companies which have which have invested in Uganda, there is a company called Cipla. I believe that's a Indian company. It's a big pharmaceutical, and it went into partnership with our Ugandans there, and they started manufacturing drugs for HIV drugs for the East African region. And these drugs are being made in Kampala somewhere, and they are being sold all over the region. So tax holidays are there. If you look in that book, you'll also see that if you import certain things, depending on, for example, can I have that? Who is nearby? Can you get me that? Yes, that's what. That's,
And one
yeah,
question is automobile industry.
That's what happened. I would urge all of you to take this book. This one is on a tax incentives guide for investors in Uganda. And in here, there are, it's by Uganda Revenue Authority. In here, this was published in 2017, so I'm sure it's still valid. In here, there are tax incentives for the manufacturing sector, for the transport sector, for the oil and gas sector, for education, and for all the sectors. If you are interested in health and medical sector, yes, there's a little bit of that. But it's clearly there. Thank you. In the manufacturing,
Those pamphlets are there.
Yes.
The booklets and all, the High Commissioners arranged. They're meant for you. So please pick them up on your way out. The text of our speech is also available. It's with me. We'll keep it here after the session is over. You can pick it up.
yes. The inputs for manufactured exercise books and exercise books. So they even describe, for example, if you are going to produce exercise books for the children in schools, so everything will be under, you will pay no import duty tax at all. If you are going to do stranded wire used for manufacture of tires, you will pay no tax at all. You know, they are here, there are so many exemptions here. Just take this book and you will see. These are the incentives that they give for all the sectors.
And India cultural relation, and second is that India has a 3-4 brand in automobiles, in bike and scooter. Your country is welcome in Indian company. Automobile industry, bike and scooters.
We want you to come and build those things there. We don't want you can import them here. We are still importing them, but we want you to come and set up your manufacturing plant there. And that's when you can create jobs. That's when you can also get your profits and repatriate them to India. By domesticating that there, you will create jobs for us. Our children will earn money and will help us to pay tax, and the economy will grow. And it will grow bigger and bigger because you're not yet selling your goods in Uganda. It will be in Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Congo. So come there rather than, we are encouraging you to domesticate that investment here rather than just import.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes? Mr. Prolong.
Madam Ambassador, when Prime Minister Modi went to Uganda, he appealed for the farmers to grow pulses and lentils.
Yes.
So what is the position now? Are the farmers growing all the pulses and lentils being exported to India?
You know what? I am laughing because, okay. I am laughing because at the last conclave, the Eastern Africa conclave which we had in Kampala in November last year, this question came up, but it came up the other way around. Because not only had Prime Minister Modi by that time Prime Minister Modi had not yet gone to Uganda, but apparently there had been some war in East Africa, and in particular to Tanzania, that why don't you grow lentils and pulses? India, we are prepared to buy all the quantities that we grow. So, and maybe the ambassador is here. If I'm wrong, you correct me.
Yes, I'm
So this person came up at this conclave and told the people, and asked the minister, your secretary of state for commerce, who was there representing the government of India, said, why is it that you told us to grow so many lentils? And when the farmers had collected and we are ready, you just didn't buy even a single. And the lady, not being a diplomat like I think I am, she just said, because our farmers also grew so many of those things, why should we buy yours? So now, Prime Minister Modi talked about it this time round, and he was told exactly that story by none other than our president. So I think that when we go, because Ugandan farmers, Kenyan farmers, Tanzanian farmers, we are hungry for money. We want an income, and we want to extend our frontiers of production. Okay? So when you tell us, grow X 100 tons of the whole East Africa, the whole of Uganda, let's say northern Uganda, if you told them to grow lentils, I tell you, you will not manage to finish the quantity of lentils that you can get from northern Uganda alone before you go to the west, before you go to the east, because the land is fertile, the farmers are very, very active, they have ownership, they are highly motivated, they want that money, and this is what we want, this trade, we want to increase this trade. But if we are going to commission people to grow, we should actually be prepared also to honor their trade by buying up, not disappointing them at the last moment and saying we can't buy it, which is what happened to the Tanzanian farmers. I see the ambassador nodding his head. I don't know.
This is a country of 1.35 billion people, and practically everybody eats lentils, vegetarians, non-vegetarians. I'm sure we can consume all the lentils the entire African continent can produce.
So let us enter, this is what I mean, let us enter into serious relationships. Contracts, you can have contractual farming. And then before the peasants actually, or the peasants or whoever, whatever level of farming it is, because there is peasant level, and then there is a slightly more mechanized farming, those stages. Before they can start production, we should have a contract and agree to will pay a certain percentage for this, or we buy the tractors for this, so that people know that there is a commitment. But just tell, if Akello now went as ambassador to India and said, grow lentils, and they do it, ooh, well, I might even lose my job.
Excellency, I would like to want to know from you, how is your government trying to boost your tourism sector? Because you have a rich heritage and you have a lot of natural sanctuaries and other things of tourism interest. So is your government doing anything to promote and boost and ease tourism out further?
I think so, we think so. We have the Uganda, you have a whole ministry, which is headed by a professor. We have a ministry for tourism, and there's also a ministry of state at the highest level, therefore, that's good. The money may be a little bit of a problem, allocation of resources may be a little bit of a problem, but politically, government is very committed to promoting tourism. Then you have the Uganda Tourist Board, which is a government body, which you have the Uganda Wildlife Authority, which is in charge of all the parks. You have, what is another one? When I used to work with the president, there's something within State House itself called Uganda Presto, a presidential initiative on tourism, so government is very interesting. The thing is that there are different needs by different customers, and sometimes what may make it look like lack of interest is that we have not quite identified what the Indian interests are. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get hold of your big names in acting, big names in the tourist industry itself. I'm proposing to take them home. In January, I want to take them home. And we tour with them, our parks. We have national parks, we have protected areas, we have culture to observe, we have what we have. We have the Nile, we have Lake Victoria, which we share with Ethiopia, we have the mountains of the moon, we have mountain gorillas, which we share with Rwanda, we have the land of the fire, the Great Lakes region, we have about 8 of those lakes in Uganda alone, and we have beautiful people, very warm people, and different foods. All of Africa's peoples are there. For example, me, I'm not Bantu. When people speak this language in Uganda, they can understand each other. But my people, who are almost my people in this country, who are the Maasai, we lost touch a long time ago. So you have all those African peoples in Uganda. So you have the food is beautiful, it's different. It's a beautiful country to be in. But you are right, we should get in touch maybe with the Uganda, with the Ministry of Tourism in India. We have such a body, and maybe share our policies and ideas and see whether we can market it more. Tourism is the 3rd highest income can earn in Uganda.
And how about connectivity?
Connectivity, oh wow, everywhere you go. MTN is everywhere, Airtel is everywhere. Airtel is, I believe, a certain company in India.
Connectivity means
air
travel.
okay.
Yeah.
You mean that's the biggest problem. That is the biggest problem. You know, Rwanda has beaten us to it. Rwanda has already got Rwanda Airlines flying to India. I believe. Do you fly does Rwanda Air fly to New Delhi? May I borrow information? Does Rwanda Air fly to New Delhi?
Which one?
Mumbai,
Yeah, Rwanda Air. Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Rwanda already has one.
Rwanda Airlines.
Mumbai. And does Brazilian Air, does it fly here?
Direct flight? Yes, Tanzania. End of next month.
No direct.
Mumbai first. Everybody's coming to Mumbai first.
Okay, direct, not from Delhi, direct to.
No, Uganda we don't
Mumbai is
have.
very-
Are you working on it?
See, most of the people of Indian origin living across Africa, they're primarily from Gujarat and that area. They want to go home, so they would use.
Besides Mumbai.
So are there no plans of direct
Delhi is
connectivity?
not the
No flights from
commercial
Uganda to
Delhi
India.
is only a bureaucratic
No.
sector.
But we are planning also to launch Uganda Airlines. But I don't know. For me, I don't care who does the flights. In fact, the Prime Minister was here. He said, can we have Air India fly directly to Kampala? For me, I don't have any problem. So long as I'm now we have to go. Hopefully we have Rwanda Air, but now we have to Dubai. Now we have to go Emirates Dubai. We have to go Qatar, Doha. We have to go Ethiopia, Sababa, then Ebe. You know, the connection is not there, but it's an area we're working on this time.
Okay, I think this is starting out to be a very interesting session, but we cannot go on forever. To give you a specially designed mug to celebrate our 60th anniversary, which was done by the Vice President of India. So then,
Teach me to laugh once again. Let me laugh with Africa, my mother. I want to dance to her drumbeat. I'm tired of her cries. Scream with laughter, roar with laughter. Oh, I hate this groaning. Africa groans. Under the load of her kwashiorkor children, she weeps. What woman will laugh over her children's praise? I want to laugh once again. Let me laugh with you. Yes, even you, my brother, who blames me for breeding. I laugh with you, even you sell me guns, preserving world peace, while my blood, Africa's blood, stains earth. Let laughter be my gift to you. My generous heart overflows with laughter. Money and vanity harden yours. Clogged in your veins, the blood no longer warms your heart. I will teach you yet. I am not bush, liar, savagery. Mine are the sinews which built your cities. My sons fighting your wars gave you victory and prestige. Sorry. Wherein lies the savagery of Africa? Your sons in Africa looted our family chests, raping the very bowels of our earth. Our God lines your cities. Where are pavements in Africa? Laugh with me. Do not laugh at me. My smile forgives all. But greed fetters your heart. The nightmare of our encounter is not over. You have overgrown offspring, swear by the Western god of money and free enterprise that they are doing their best for Africa. Indeed, Africa, the dumping ground. Africa, the great experimental ground. The army bases in developing parts, enhanced military aid in loyal parts, family planning in the advanced parts. My son built your cities. What did your son do for me?
this is very rare that we have this privilege of a writer, a poet, a politician, a diplomat taking time off and reading one of our poems. Thank you very, very much.